Hey everybody, War Hamster Brady here with another episode of what we call the Grassroots Spotlight, where we talk to people around the country that are making a difference in their own little ways of restoring the Republic. Joining me today for the fourth or fifth time, friend of the show, Sheriff Richard Mack, and the founder of the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. Welcome.
Well, thanks, Brady. It's great to be back home with you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I had to cancel on you a couple of weeks ago, so I appreciate you coming on most recently. My audience has been wondering where the heck I've been.
Yeah.
After a fractured hip, a pinched nerve in my neck, etc. But I am back to the point where I was shoveling snow all morning and ready to go and get back into the swing of things.
Well, that snow back east is something is one of the reasons why I live in Arizona.
Yeah, I've got a brother-in-law who does the weather in Arizona, and he goes, "Why don't you ever watch this?" I go, "I don't want to see your weather."
Yeah, it's let me see. I think it's 82 today.
Yeah, well, I've got another blizzard coming, a small snowstorm coming tomorrow. I won't call it a blizzard, but I am jealous. I do miss the sunshine of Southern California, but at least I live in the free state. There's that. So, of people who have not seen Sheriff Mack on my show before, he is probably the biggest drum beater for what a constitutional sheriff is, the most powerful, most important law enforcement officer in your county. And that's the foundation of what he does, but you do a lot more. So I'm just going to turn it over. What have you been up to?
Well, obviously, I'm really into gun rights. When I sued the federal government, it was because I knew and understood the Constitution, and I knew and understood the oath of office. And so I just start looking at all the abuses and oppression going on, and that the courts and the legislatures, and a lot of times the executive branch, just don't follow the Constitution. So I started questioning why we have government that doesn't follow the rules, but punishes everyone else when they don't follow the rules. And I really believe that the greatest threat that faces our country today is public corruption. It really is. It's gotten so deep. It's so ingrained that people don't even recognize it anymore. They just, oh, well, that's politics. No, that's dishonesty, and it's subterfuge. And we've got to the biggest solution, the just that I keep pounding over and over, is that we've got to get back to our constitutional basics. We've got to get back to the rule of law. We've got to get back to the principles upon which America was founded, the principles that our founding fathers fought and died for. We've got to get back to that, or America is finished. America is dying right now. And I do appreciate a lot what President Trump has done. But other than that, I mean, look at all of the horrible things that the Democrat Party is doing, what they're trying to push as lawlessness and crime. They're actually defending. Over and over, they're defending lawlessness and crime. And I'm talking serious crimes. And yet these brain dead Democrats just continue to go along and, oh yeah, Trump is a racist, and well, tell me what he's done racist. Has he said anything or done anything that even compares to the stupidity and racist remarks made by Gavin Newsom just 2 days ago in Atlanta? I mean, did you see that? You saw that, obviously.
Yeah, not only that, but there was a clip that someone resurfaced this morning of Gavin talking to a bunch of white crowd, talking about, how much he reads all the time. I went through this book in 90 minutes, and so I'm a really fast reader. It's just the opposite. You can tell it's a pander. It's a lie. It's ingrained in everything, and everything that comes out of his mouth.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, and then not only that, during COVID, he and his family are out with other friends and family at a restaurant, and nobody has a mask on, but he was having the state arrest people for not wearing masks.
I was worse than that, Sheriff Mack, because I lived under Gavin's thumb during COVID. I was in Southern California,
Okay.
They took down the rims at the local basketball hoop. They arrested people for going with a lone paddleboarder by himself. They sanded down the skateboard park. So now we know in retrospect, and most of us knew it at the time, sunshine's good for your health. And he tried to lock us all down in stores. It was bad.
Of course. Yeah.
Now you said something.
No matter even if there is a benefit, government doesn't get to do that anyway. They do not have the authority to suspend civil rights and the Constitution until they determine that this emergency is over.
Yeah, there is no asterisk in the Constitution that says except for when we decide.
Except for serious issues and emergencies, and just like the stupid governor in New Mexico, she says, "Oh yeah, I suspended the right to keep and bear arms in Albuquerque because, well, in an emergency, we are allowed to do that, and I declared an emergency." So she could declare an emergency anytime and take away your guns or any other right, the right to peaceably assemble. So what really hit me is that the Constitution is not a buffet. It's not a cafeteria. You don't get to walk through and say, I'll take a little bit of that one. Oh no, I don't like those mean guns, so I don't want any Second Amendment rights. And oh yeah, well, cruel and unusual punishment. Well, yeah, excessive fines or bail. Well, yeah, but we still have to write tickets because we need that $9 billion a year nationwide, and so it's not that. It's the entire Constitution, especially the Bill of Rights, because the Bill of Rights are the supreme of the supreme laws of the land. Well, they had the Constitution, the Founding Fathers had the Constitution, but it didn't contain a Declaration of Rights. And that's why Patrick Henry and Samuel Adams went back to James Madison, who was considered the father of the Constitution, but not just that. He was the one keeping records of everything they were doing in the Constitutional Convention. And they said, hey, we forgot something. And Madison kind of got upset and said, no, you guys know we did a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to hammer this out. And it was inspired by God. And the prayers that we made, we knew that those prayers were answered by God Almighty. He goes, we got too busy in all of that stuff. We forgot a Declaration of Rights. And Madison went, you guys are right. We've got to call everybody back. And that's when they developed the Bill of Rights. And do you know how many? If we were to do this today, I bet it'd be the same. If we were all to sit down, maybe let's get 100 people in the freedom movement and sit down and say, if we were to declare rights that are untouchable by government, rights that they can never talk about legislating, and that's what they were coming up with. The Founding Fathers came up with 189 of the list of the Declaration of Rights that government could never touch. And then there was a lot of overlap and a lot of the same things, and so they dwindled them down to 12. And the states ratified 10. Now, how many rights are within the Bill of Rights? Because there's not just 10 rights in there. There's about 27 or 28.
That's the magic of the
entire Bill of Rights.
Yeah, the magic of the 9th and 10th Amendment. It basically takes care of the others. Yeah. And those are the two amendments that don't get enough attention these days because they're limiting to the federal government.
Well, that's what we sued on. We sued on the 10th Amendment, and everybody needs to know the 10th Amendment. So, but let me read. We were just talking about this. Let me read from my Supreme Court case here, because you touched on it, and say that Gavin Newsom doesn't get to suspend the Constitution because of the crisis of the day. Well, that's exactly what Scalia quotes in this case. And he said, but the Constitution that's the one. Everybody needs to get that. Okay. It's a little booklet, but it's the most powerful. It's worth its weight in gold. And as everybody knows, gold's been going up lately. But it says this, and I have this memorized. It's such a beautiful piece of judicial poetry. This is judicial prose. But the Constitution protects us from our own best intentions. It divides power among sovereigns and among branches of government so that we may resist the temptation or the evil, resist the temptation to concentrate power in one location as an expedient solution to the crisis of the day, end quote. All that's a quote in this most miraculous, amazing, and powerful Supreme Court case, the only time in U.S. history where sheriffs sued the federal government. We beat the Clintons at the United States Supreme Court and lived to tell about it. And folks, every one of you should be ordering those books. It's on our website, CSPOA.org, and you should be passing these around to your sheriffs, to your county commissioners, to your county attorney, to your city council, and to your neighbors. And everybody needs to see this case. And while you're there, become a member of the CSPOA posse. And you were just showing that. You were just showing our challenge coin. And let me see where it was. I think it's a little bit down. Scroll down a little bit. Keep going. Nope, go back up.
There's a challenge coin.
No, go back. That's not it. I saw it just a while ago. Keep going. Now, there it is. That's it right there. So that right there is the same as this right here. So the challenge coin is absolutely beautiful, and it's both sides. And so, folks, get your challenge coins. And the deal is that if any of you become a member of the CSPOA, which is $11 a month or $99 a year, $99 a year, folks, that's about $8.50 a month. Okay, not exactly that, but it's really close to that. And you get to be part of a peaceful and effective solution that is called the Solution for Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. Then every Wednesday, we have a training webinar where we train you how to work with your sheriff to create a posse there, and then just see how you can get your sheriff to be a constitutional sheriff. So that's the peaceful and effective solution, because we take back America county by county.
Yeah, agreed on that from both directions. Obviously, I think we've talked about that. I'm working pretty hard on Reynolds v. Sims, but that goes hand in hand with the county by county approach.
Right.
But it's more important. We found out the importance of the constitutional sheriff during COVID. It mattered.
Oh boy,
who's going to enforce lockdowns? I think it's going to become even more important going forward, especially if we ever see the Democrats back in power.
Yeah, you know another one's coming sooner or later, and if the Democrats get back in power, they've already promised. I can't believe that they're so brazen and blatant, and open about their threats to anybody who has crossed them.
You know, let me share a recent story with you that'll segue into this whole topic.
Yeah,
really good example. Well, Virginia, the Democrats managed a clean sweep, even though they got razor-thin majorities.
Mm-hmm.
They basically dominate the entire state. And since they've gotten in power in January, they have just they ran as moderates, and now they're going full-blown communist. It says the Virginia lawmakers moved closer Friday to reshaping how federal immigration enforcement operates in the Commonwealth. The legislative proposals create clear restrictions on how ICE operates in Virginia and the role of state and local police. Full stop. Do you have any issues with that at all?
Yeah, I do, because it's totally up to the sheriff whether he gets involved in helping ICE. And most sheriffs, like in Florida, all 67 sheriffs in Florida signed on with Governor DeSantis to help get the murderers, the rapists, the human traffickers, the fentanyl dealers out of their state. All 67 sheriffs, Democrats, liberals, Republicans, even Rhino Republicans, all of the sheriffs said, this is something we need to do for each other. We will do this. We will make this happen. Now, guess what? It's working in Florida because they're working together with ICE. They're making sure that protesters are protected in doing their protests, and they're making sure that they have the backs of the ICE agents. Do you notice anybody getting killed? Do you know anybody getting beat up? Do you know that it's not working? Florida is the example to the rest of the country. Do you think Minnesota and Virginia will try to follow and cooperate to keep everything peaceful and working correctly? And this is just Virginia taking the side of the criminals. And folks, do you know how many terrorists infiltrated our country during the open borders of the 4 years of Biden? It's hundreds of thousands. Look at all the fraud that these terrorists are committing and then funding their terrorist organizations back in the Middle East. Folks, this is ridiculous that the Democrat Party is uniting behind that movement. It's astonishing, it's deplorable, it's pathetic, but they're still doing it.
This goes back to what you said. One of the first things you said today was the biggest threat we face in this country is the corruption, and it is systemic. And it goes back to the days of the founding fathers when people like Hamilton wanted federally funded internal improvements and protective tariffs. That's code word for crony capitalism.
Right.
And my catchphrase that I've adopted lately is when you treat the government like a piggy bank, you're going to attract swine. And the government keeps getting a bigger and bigger budget, and the swine keep getting fatter and fatter. And it creates an entire trickle-down system. And it's the incentives, the perverse incentives to be honest in DC. It was inevitable that we get to this point. It's a slippery slope. And for 250 years, it's been getting worse and worse. And the corruption's gotten to the point right now where, the US dollar is a danger. But, the entire system could crumble in a heartbeat. We're no hyperbole, but we're on the verge of an internal civil war. And that's because of the corruption. They will do anything to protect the racket. And that's what they're doing in Minnesota.
That is absolutely correct. And look, let's be real. The Democrats do not care that politicians threaten to kill their opponents, like the Attorney General in Virginia. He literally threatened that he should be killed and his children. And this is how debased the whole party has gotten. And not only that, I'm writing a book with a well-known author right now. We're co-authoring a book. And I I remember when I was a little boy that there was the secretary of the Communist Party in the Soviet Union, Russia. And do you remember that guy's name? Fat, ugly, mean. Nikita Khrushchev.
There we go.
Yeah. And folks, Nikita Khrushchev made about 3 or 4 comments, threats and warnings to America. And he said this. He said, "You Americans are so gullible. You say you're against communism and you're trying to fight communism. And you know what? We will never have to fire a shot because we will keep feeding you pieces of socialism over and over until one day you'll wake up and realize you're a communist country just like everybody else." And indeed, that's exactly what we're doing today. But we don't need the communist dictators like Nikita Khrushchev. We don't need them to destroy America anymore because we have the Democrat Party doing the same damn thing right now in front of us. And they're all proud of it. Look at Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Kamala and everything that they're proposing, and all these blind protesters out there doing the same thing. Oh yeah, we want the same for everybody, and we want equality, and we'll finally have it from this promise of Marxism that Mandani is already proving to everybody, even in just the first few weeks, doesn't work. Like his stupid free groceries thing. And the first day it opened, it failed. It failed. And of course it would. And folks, the answer to our problems is still freedom, individual liberty, and the right to pursue your own life. And no one owes you. The rich people in our world today, they don't owe you anything. Elon Musk doesn't owe me anything. You know, he already provides hundreds of thousands of jobs. That's wonderful. What did AOC do when Amazon was trying to bring in 25,000 jobs to her district? She fought it tooth and nail and bragged that she kept them out of
those darn capitalists. We don't need jobs in my district.
That's right. And folks, do you think that it was communism and socialism and Marxism that made America great, that made us the #1 country in the world for business, for freedom, for advancements, for inventions, for helping people get jobs? And none of that was communism.
I'm old enough to remember 8 years of Obama lecturing us how it was the government that built America, not American and freedom. And that made me sick to my stomach. In fact, that's what it really drove me to become politically involved, was listening to him regurgitate those talking points. Lest we seem like we're, so I would say partisan or anything like that, the Democrats didn't do it alone. There are an awful lot of Republicans that are aiding and abetting and protecting their own interests. And that's almost as big of a problem, is that establishment wing of the Republican Party that won't even get the SAVE Act to the Senate floor.
Well, a lot of Democrats have joined the Republican Party, and you know they want to win both sides. And
yes,
and the stupidity of the two-party system is that it has gotten to where it is today, and that is, we'll fight anything the other side wants, even if it's good for us. Even if it's good for our country or people, they'll continue to fight it. And that's why George Washington, in his farewell address, warned us about a two-party system.
Yeah, or parties at all, just factions in general. But he admitted, the First Amendment protects our right to assemble and like that.
Right.
To me, the issue is not having political parties; it's having national political parties. We've gotten to the point, because we're such a tribalist species, that they have us playing right versus left, red versus blue, and never looking up. The problem is, our politicians, they don't represent their local constituents. They represent a national party. The national party is controlled by moneyed interests. So the key to me is cutting off the money into the states, and that actually can be done, and we're working on that.
And you just reminded me a minute ago. Remember when Elon Musk was working with Trump? Remember the thing that they were going to go expose and show and take cameras in to Fort Knox?
Act Blue, right?
Yeah, they were going to go to Fort Knox.
Oh, that too.
And see about the gold that was supposed to be in there. And all of a sudden, they stopped talking about that. And do people really understand why? It's not there. And Trump realized, because he's smart, first of all, he realized if they just went in there and took the cameras and showed everybody that the gold doesn't exist, the dollar would crash immediately. It wouldn't even wait till tomorrow. It would crash then, because it would prove there's nothing backing our paper currency. Folks, paper isn't value. There's no value to paper money because it's paper. It was supposed to represent gold, just like a check represents money in your bank account. If it's not there, your check bounces. That's the same thing that would happen with our paper currency. And I'm positive. Now, no one said that, but it would only make common sense, because it would create a worldwide depression if the dollar crashed. And I'm sure that maybe now they're trying to get some gold back in there. I don't know. I hope they are. But folks, it's part of the reason why gold was rising so much during that time. But folks, we've got to wake up. this is what the politicians have done to us. And it's not Trump that took that money, that took that gold out there. These were the Democrats and Republicans in power during the last 50, 60, 70 years to fund ridiculous wars and to fund their pet projects. And this is one complaint I do have about Trump and the Republicans and Democrats. They spend money like it doesn't matter that we're $40 trillion in debt. And folks, if it doesn't matter, if it really doesn't matter that we're in that much debt, why do you and I need to pay income tax to the federal government? Why?
The part that gets me is, as bad as it is fiscally, these policies and stuff like that, from a moral standpoint, this is generational theft.
Yeah.
We are leaving our children and grandchildren with a debt that they can never repay. You see this, in the polls and the ballot boxes, these, the under 30 group swung very far right in 2024, and they're not seeing the help that they voted for. And this matters. They need to see a way out. They need to see a future and a promise. And you're getting a lot of people that are being disgruntled because it's not happening fast enough, which is ridiculous because the policies are there to make some changes and move things in the right direction. The problem is we have a feckless GOP and a feckless House and a feckless Senate that are not getting the things done that need to be done. They're passing no bills. And, it's a darn shame because we have an opportunity right now to make a change.
Well, I really like Rand Paul when he talks about fiscal responsibility or fiscal irresponsibility from both parties. And it wouldn't be all that difficult. He used to say just that if every department, every branch of government would just take a 1% cut, it'd probably have to be 2% now. But okay, so 2%. What we do know is that every year the budget will increase in Congress and exponentially every year. Folks, this is just absolute crazy that it's that we have allowed this to happen. And we've already, President Trump said one year, I think it is during his first term, we will never allow the United States to become a socialist country. It already is. It has been for a long time. And the socialism that was brought in and introduced from FDR, really pushed by FDR. And there was other presidents before that. But FDR, of course, people were hungry. People were out of work. It was the Great Depression. And what did FDR do? People had their hand out. So he raised taxes and he put money in people's pockets. And everybody got used to it that, oh, yeah, government's here to take care of us. Government is not here to take care of you. You can take care of yourself. This isn't a nanny state. You can go get a job. You can work. There's always room at the top. You can create a business. You can work. And yet people believe that it's okay just to stay home and live off your neighbors. That is so wrong and so immoral. For instance, does government have the authority to do that in the first place? And that's where AOC and Bernie Sanders and a lot of these other socialist communists that we have in our government right now, that's where they're missing the boat. Fundamentally, they do not have the authority to take from one person who has more than the other person and spread it out equal. That's not equality. That's communism. That's government force. That's the problem with communism and socialism. They always end up at the point of a gun, forcing people to behave and to be equal, forcing people to be equal. Government's job is to make sure the playing field is equal for everyone, that everyone has equal opportunity, but not equal stuff is not equality. It will never be. So if my neighbor down the street has 3 cars and I don't have any, do I have the authority to go take one of his cars and bring it home and make it my own? No, I don't. Well, that's what your government is doing. You see, it would be theft. And I could go to jail if I went down to my neighbor's house and took one of his cars. And it's a Mustang, and I like Mustang. And so I'm going to bring that my house now. And he can't do anything about it, right? Well, he can, and he'll file charges and he'll call the sheriff, and I'll go to jail. But if you have your government do it for you, then it's okay, right? It's moral and it's okay. That's exactly what's happening, folks. And it's been happening in our country for a long time. And that's really the mainstay for the Democrat Party, because that is what they do. And they will always protect you and help you and make sure those evil rich people pay their fair share. No, folks.
There you go, back to fiscal responsibility.
immorality.
Anybody who follows me on Twitter has seen me saying quite a bit. This topic's getting hotter and hotter, what we're talking about here. People are aware of this problem, but I say, look, if we just told, to ask Congress this question, is what you're passing right now, is it enumerated in Article 1, Section 8? If the answer is yes, you can do it. If the answer is no, the bill's dead on arrival. If they just went to Article 1, Section 8, we'd cut out 75% of the federal budget.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm probably being kind.
Yeah, you are. But yeah, if they would just follow constitutional spending, then our country would be fine. But they have fabricated so many reasons and so many authorities and powers that were never constitutionally theirs.
And it happened incrementally over generations. It's the slow drip. It's the boiling frog is how they did it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's go ahead and close up on that. I want to switch over to Minneapolis because
so do I. So let's go there.
All right. So the overview basically is the federal government cannot coerce a state to do a federal government's job.
Correct.
Nor can the state.
That's my Supreme Court case.
Yeah.
We have held, however, that state legislatures are not subject to federal direction. That's a quote from my case.
Very good. At the same time, the states cannot obstruct the federal government from doing
That's the key point. Yeah, that's the key part of that.
And look, you and I are both very much limited government guys, but if you're going to have a federal government, it's got a few enumerated duties, and one of them most certainly is immigration. It's one of the whole points of having a federal government. Otherwise, we would have stayed under the Articles of Confederation. So,
well, should we read real quickly Article 4, Section 4? That part, naturalization is in Article 1, Section 8, which is naturalization is how you become a citizen. So Article 4, Section 4, let's read that real quick so make sure everybody knows what we're talking about. So, okay, here it is. I know I can get to my Constitution here.
I'll pull it up on screen here while we're doing it.
Yeah, I do that. Okay, Article 4, Section 4. Gosh. Folks, it says, the United States shall guarantee to every state in the Union a Republican form of government. Wow. You mean we're not a democracy? Oh, wonder where that came from. And shall protect each of them against invasion. And then 2 sentences down, against domestic violence. So Trump, actually, the federal government has the right to move in. If states do not protect their citizens from domestic violence and riots, then the federal government can step in. And Article 4, Section 4 makes it pretty plain. But that part that we're talking about right now, and shall protect each of them from invasion. The federal government is supposed to be protecting our borders. And if a president commits treason and allows all these criminals and all these terrorists into our country, who's supposed to get rid of them? The federal government. Okay? Wouldn't it be nice, though, if the federal government would come in and say, we really need your help, sheriffs, chiefs of police, we want to get these criminals out of your community, protect your citizens, and we would love to have your help. No one knows the county better than the sheriff does. We would like you to be on board with us. We'll help train you. We'll help train your deputies to help how we want them to help. And we're asking you for help. This will be safer for everybody, your citizens and us. And so many sheriffs now are just sitting back and they don't want to get involved in this. But there's a lot of sheriffs that are helping, and some of the sheriffs, like in Virginia now and Washington State, the AG is suing sheriffs who are helping with deportation, trying to help get rid of these horrible terrorists, cartels, and gangs from Latin America. Imagine that, folks.
Yeah, I'd be even fine with a neutral state that just honored ICE detainers. Don't let these guys slip these guys out the back door and make it have. And that's what they do. They let these violent criminals back on the streets, and therefore ICE has to come in and do a raid, which is dangerous for everyone involved, especially the paid protesters who've been trained in Marxist street tactics, the whole purpose of which is to agitate, escalate, and hope to get an incident. And I looked at this. I looked this up a few weeks ago. If you look at all of the police violent encounters throughout the country and the number of casualties that occur from them, ICE actually operates more safely than the regular police do across the country. We've had 2 fatal incidents of civilians, and it's a very low percentage compared to what the police see in similar situations. So guys at ICE should be applauded for showing as much restraint as they have.
Yeah, they have. And actually, I never saw that statistic, but you're absolutely correct. That's a great stat there.
I'll track it down and shoot it over to you.
Yeah, please do, because that is absolutely correct. Wow. Man.
Well, if you do the math, say 600,000.
That's correct. Hey, but look at the 2 incidents there, though, where a lady and a man were killed. Renee Good being the lady. It was amazing that she was so belligerent and egging the police on, the ICE agents on, and she knew exactly what she was doing. If she had just done what she was told, she would have never been arrested. She would have never been hurt, and life would have gone on for her and her family. But when, and I have to tell you this, according to the protocols that are required for an officer to use lethal force, the officer was within those protocols. However, I want everyone to know that in 20 years of law enforcement, I never shot anybody. I never even beat anybody up. I stopped fights. I tackled guys fighting. I grabbed guys that were fighting. I pinned guys that were fighting up against the wall, but I never maced them, and I never hit them with my nightstick, and I never hit them with my fist, ever. And this is the point I'm making. I'm grateful to God Almighty that I never had to shoot anybody. And in this particular case, I would not have shot Renee Good. If that had been me and I had been hit by her car or her truck, I would not have shot her. The threat was over as soon as the officer was hit. The threat was over. She went past him, and no other officer shot at her either. He was the only one. Every one of them, if there was the real threat there, that there was just instantaneously, they could have shot at her too. But he was the only one, and it was probably because he got dragged by a vehicle, another citizen, 2 months before that. So you can't count that for what she's doing to you. And the officer may have done that, and that would have been an error on his part. I hate to disagree with him, but I hate killing people worse. And I wish that he had not shot her. She would have still been arrested, and he would still be okay, and the incident would have been taken care of. And that's why I say I would not have shot her.
Well, it's a tragedy no matter what. And
It is.
we have courts to decide whether it was fault. And I know they look at the totality of the circumstances. And it's, I'm not going to put myself in saying what I would have not or would not have done, because I've never been in that situation.
I have.
And in a moment's notice, it's hard. Those time moves fast.
It is. And all that's correct.
Yeah.
That is correct. Every bit of that's correct. And I know other officers who have done shootings that I was highly critical in Arizona, who made a suspect crawl on his hands and on his belly to come towards him, and he said, if you make any sudden move with your hands, I'm gonna shoot you. And he goes, no, please don't shoot me, please don't shoot me. Well, while he was crawling, his shorts were coming down and coming down off of him. He reached down and pulled his shorts up, and the officer killed him. And so it's stuff like that. And you see, and first of all, that's not even proper protocol to have someone crawl like that to you. And because he was crawling like that, his pants were coming off. And so now there's lots of them out there. I actually worked as an expert investigator at a shooting in Utah, in Orem, Utah, about 20 years ago, maybe even 25 years ago. And one officer was shooting at a suspect, but he thought he had a gun in his hand, but it was a comb. And one officer shot at him, and the other officer shot at him because the other officer was shooting at him. And Jose Guerrero was shot by a SWAT team the same way in Tucson about 12, 15 years ago. And this is the mentality of too many police. If one officer is shooting, then I get to shoot too, without making an independent assessment of the real threat. And that's a problem that officers need to be trained in. Just because one officer is shooting doesn't mean you get to. And that's why I applaud ICE in this case that they did not follow suit with this officer that shot her. And so anyway, you are absolutely correct, Brady, that you have a fraction of a second sometimes to make that decision. And then a jury gets weeks to decide if that fraction of the second you did the right thing. So I understand that. I get all that. I've been in that situation before. And I'm so grateful that the good Lord touched me not to kill a couple of guys that most officers say, oh, you should have shot him. Well, I'm glad I didn't. I felt that it wasn't needed at the time. And the suspect had his 10-year-old son standing next to him when he was waving a gun around at us and neighbors. And it all ended peacefully. And so I thank the good Lord for that. But folks, I understand the real situation and the real problem here and the real issue. And it really bothers me that there's a mayor in Minneapolis, a governor in Minnesota, chief of police in Minneapolis that actually encourage this type of activity and resistance and noncompliance. This is horrible. And I believe blood is on the hands of those ignorant politicians.
Well, if you create a situation that's that's that tense, that actually has, and you can read in their own training manuals, the actual purpose is to escalate the tension until an incident happens. It's inevitable. It's going to.
Yeah.
The Alex Pretty shooting's different. Do you want to give your thoughts on that one?
Well, it is. I'm sorry, but I wasn't able to determine, even the lady that was going over the photography of the scene, and she kept saying, well, here's where he went for the gun. I didn't see him going for a gun. So, I have to claim ignorance on this one. I didn't see any place where it was really a shooting was justified, but it might be that I missed something, or that she messed up narrating what was going on. But I have not seen enough of that case where I can make an independent determination on my own.
Well, on this one, video came out a week later that showed Alex Pretty just previously on video basically kicking an ICE van, knocked the the bumper off it and stuff like that, and was still being was agitating and stuff like that. Had the Minnesota police done their job with riot control, someone who attacks ICE should have been arrested. Alex Pretty shouldn't have been on the streets. And the failure to enforce the law.
That's a good point. Yeah.
The failure to enforce the law. And I'm not saying people don't get to protest, but when they start physically attacking ICE, that's when the police, their job is to maintain order and protect the peace.
Well,
and
see,
they
that's
didn't
why I
do it.
want the sheriffs to get more involved. And the sheriff in Minneapolis wasn't involved. And the sheriff in Portland, which is Multnomah County, Sheriff O'Donnell was not involved. The sheriff in Chicago, Sheriff Dart, Cook County. Chicago's in Cook County. Los Angeles City is in Los Angeles County. Where were the sheriffs in those jurisdictions? Completely crickets. And if they would get out there and work with the chiefs of police and say, look, it's our job to make sure that protesters are safe and that they're obeying the law. And we completely ignore this. And of course, things are going to get out of hand. And then we're sitting here blaming Trump. This is absolutely absurd. And those sheriffs should be ashamed of themselves for not exercising their authority and their leadership to make sure that people are safe. And that's people from both sides. And ICE should not be by themselves trying to handle this in jurisdictions where sheriffs should be getting involved and working together.
So how does this work? Let's say the Minneapolis sheriff decided to do what you ask and get involved.
Yep.
The Minneapolis PD refuses to work with them. The Minneapolis mayor tells them, get out of here, you're not needed. And the governor of Minnesota, starts doing all those empty threats. How does that play out if we have one good sheriff against this whole?
The sheriff should contact the mayor and the city police, which are both inside his jurisdiction. So Minneapolis sheriff goes to has a meeting with them and just says, just so you know, the people of Minneapolis elected me to be sheriff. And I know that we have a gentleman's agreement that the city police will handle all the calls for police within the city limits. I handle all of them. The sheriff's office handles all the calls outside the city limits. However, we do have the sheriff's office. We do have concurrent jurisdiction. And as I said, the people of Minneapolis elect me as well, and not just the people outside the city limits. I'm going to take charge of this entire situation, but I would rather do it with you. Let's work together, chief of police, and let's be on the same page here, because I am going to provide deputies. And if I have to if we need more, I'll call out the posse and volunteers to help, former military, former police, whoever I can. And we will provide adequate backup for the ICE agents, and we will provide adequate security for the citizens of this county. Now, can I count on your cooperation and help, or do I do this on my own?
Does the sheriff have the manpower?
Oh, yeah. I mean, those major cities like that, they have 2,000 or 3,000 deputies. Of course they do.
That's more than enough.
Do you want all of them used for that? No. That's why you want to use some from the city and state, and they can provide them very easily. But if the mayor says hell no, then you say fine, just stay out of my way. And the chief of police is ordered by the mayor not to participate, then say fine, stay out of my way, I'll take care of it. But this is my jurisdiction as well as it is yours. We have concurrent jurisdiction, and I will be taking care of this. I'd rather do it with you, but if you're refusing, I'll take care of it. And the sheriff goes and takes care of it.
All right, similar question for you. Obviously, we agree with the right to assembly and all that, and the right to protest. At what point in time do we cross the line from protest to obstruction? Is there any kind of training on that?
Of course there is, and it comes with the de-escalation training. But first of all, you get on the loudspeaker and you let protesters know. If you commit any crime, you're going to be arrested. If you throw rocks, if you throw them at police, if you throw them at windows, if there's any looting, whatever it takes, you're going to be arrested. You can peacefully protest. You can walk on the sidewalks. You can walk a little bit out in the streets where cars are normally parked, but you cannot obstruct traffic. You cannot obstruct ICE agents or police or deputies in any way, shape, manner, or form, that will be also a criminal charge. And just let people know the rules when they're out there. And all the other deputies can be warning them, the people that they're around, saying, no, you can't do that. Get back on the sidewalk, get back where you belong. You can go to the courthouse, and all of you can be there, and you can say your chants, and you can do your speeches and everything else. You can wave your signs. But once you obstruct traffic or you obstruct an officer, you will be arrested.
Now, when they get arrested, they're going to be arraigned in which courts? We're talking Minneapolis here.
The geographical area where it took place. So it could end up being a justice of the peace, could be being a city police or city court, could be a superior court. Just depends on where geographically the jurisdiction lies.
And that's really part of the problem is so many of these activist judges will it's a revolving door. They're right back out in the street, no charges, everything like that. And that's why I beat these people like, I'm sorry, I forgot her name again. Good.
Renee Good. Yeah.
Renee actually thinks that they're, invulnerable. We can't be touched. You'll never. And they've learned that lesson. We learned that during the Summer of Love.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a comment by the mayor in Seattle when people were committing crime after crime after crime, rape, sexual assaults, drugs. It was assaults. Man, it was crazy. But the mayor, of course, of Seattle called it Summer of Love.
And Kamala Harris was, gathering bail funds for.
I never thought we'd have a more entertaining politician than Hillary. But
I could use a little less entertainment in my life.
She has a worse laugh than Hillary, and she's also quite the orator.
Yeah, magnitudes of lower level IQ. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
The next generation they've got coming up here is going to, take the cake. AOC just did wonders for herself on the international stage last month. But
yeah, I mean, I was actually feeling sorry for her that she was that unprepared. And a simple answer, a political answer would have been so simple for her. My wife says, "What would you have said?" I said, first of all, I'm not going to get into hypotheticals, but I'm not going to dodge a question at the same time. It's a legitimate question. And I will take into consideration everything at that time. And if troops are needed, I will send them. If there's a way to settle it without putting up troops, that's the last thing I want to do, is to risk the lives of men and women from America on foreign soil halfway around the world. And so I hope that we'll be working together with China to prevent that. And I will be having open discussions with the Prime Minister of China, President Xi, whatever his name is. And I will be trying to avoid all of that. And I believe that I will be successful in doing that. We will not need to send troops to Taiwan.
That would have been an acceptable answer.
Yeah.
That would have worked.
And she doesn't really have to say anything.
Well, she didn't say anything.
Even some of what I was saying was mumbo jumbo. But at the same time, you're addressing the exact topic that was asked of you.
Yeah, sometimes simpler is much better than trying to put together a word salad, make yourself try to seem intelligent. Anytime you're trying to
she didn't even put together a word salad. She was like, just that's a policy of the longstanding policy of the United States. What is, So no, that was probably the worst response by any politician I've heard on any issue in a long time. I mean, even Kamala would say, like when she told the who was the man interviewing from Fox? I know him.
Not Brett Baer.
Yeah, Brett Baer, the one that never smiles.
Yeah, that's Brett.
And she goes, "You know exactly what I'm talking about." So she kind of put it back on him, and he almost did respond, and then she could have gone on, but he goes, "No, I don't know what you're talking about," and so he caught her. But AOC was even worse than Kamala because she just stuttered and bounced around and said, even if she just said, I'm not going to play hypothetical games with something that serious. I'll wait and answer that when it occurs. Okay. Dodge the question.
Yeah, sometimes saying less is
usually
more.
you're not supposed to answer hypotheticals in debates or anything else. You just say, hey, you know what? Nobody knows the answer to that. Nobody knows what they'll do until that time. And I'm not taking a hypothetical and making it part of my campaign right now.
We've got another one of your books pulled up here. I'll give you an opportunity to talk about that real quick.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
County Sheriff, America's Last Hope by none other than Sheriff Richard
folks,
Mack.
That sign there, or the picture there, my book makes it look big. It's not a big book. It's only 50 pages. It's probably one of the best books in the country. It is the best book in the United States of America. It is the best book about sheriffs, about the office of the sheriff. And the statement on the front is becoming truer every day. And this has been out for about 15 years.
Yeah, in fact, I know a number of sheriffs who
and
actually...
it's timeless and it's powerful. And it was the same yesterday as it is today. The county... Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of sheriffs that have this book. There was a lady when it first came out 15 years ago. She bought one for every sheriff in the state of Minnesota. And then she and her family sent it to him. They mailed it to him. And I even had a sheriff say, hey, thanks, I got your book. Folks, this book is so powerful. The County Sheriff, America's Last Hope. And every one of you should read it. And it's only $10, but it's the best book about sheriffs anywhere in the country. It's really powerful, exciting, very educational. And as a matter of fact, if everybody would read my Supreme Court case and that book and one other one. Now I'm going to move my computer to grab the other book here. Okay, don't want to make anybody seasick. And this one. That's me when I was a rookie cop, folks.
Look at all that hair.
The proper role of law enforcement. This is that picture is 35 years old. But hey, don't I look like Superman? All right, good. Yeah. And if you read these two books or these three books, this really is just a pamphlet. You can read that one in 10 minutes. You should really study the Supreme Court case. Folks, if there was a Supreme Court victory by one of the leading patriots of America, wouldn't you want to see what that was about? The United States Supreme Court agreed with two sheriffs, Sheriff Prince and Sheriff Mack, that said the federal government was acting outside its authority. The federal government was put in its place by the United States Supreme Court, quoting the Federalist Papers. Scalia quoted the Federalist Papers. Hence, a double security arises to the rights of the people. The different governments will control each other. Folks, this is the most powerful freedom decision from the United States Supreme Court in the last 100 years. It is so powerful. It's based on the 10th Amendment. The powers not delegated to the United States government by the Constitution remain with the people or the states. They can't go outside those authorities. And who was supposed to make sure they didn't? We, the people, and the states. And both of us fell asleep while the federal government self-aggrandized its own authority. That was wrong, and the states and the people can take it back. It's going to take a lot of work. That's why we have the CSPOA. Join us at the CSPOA.org. Become a part of the solution. But folks, you cannot beat the education of these three books. Try to show them all at the same time. Yeah. So the proper role of law enforcement, and the subtitle is what every citizen should know, what every cop should believe. And then, of course, the other one, of course, the county sheriff, America's Last Hope, and that Sheriff Joe Arpaio's picture on the back. And he's endorsing the book for me. And the Supreme Court case, the only time in history where sheriffs sued the federal government and won. That hasn't happened in 250 years. It's happened one time. Folks, don't you want to be a part of that history? So anyway, these are all available at our website, CSPOA.org. Get educated, because what did Jefferson say? If you expect to be ignorant and free, you expect what never was and what never will be.
You know, we're looking at moving to the Gulf Coast sometime in the next couple of years. And one of the things we're doing in our search is we're looking up the sheriff and finding out if they are a constitutional sheriff or a member of the CSPOA, because that matters to me.
I can help you with that. I could probably help you with that.
Yeah, we need to get our timing down, but I'll definitely reach out. I can't have Sheriff Mack on here without having a quick little question about Sheriff Chad Bianco running for governor of California. We always end up with that conversation. We'll close with that. Right now, the big topic is Bianco has been quoted as saying that he is not going to cooperate with ICE if he becomes governor. Interestingly enough, the most recent polls have Steve Hilton. California's got the jungle primary where Democrats and Republicans all get thrown in the blender, and the top two vote getters in the primaries run for the general. Right now, the top two vote getters are Steve Hilton at 17%, Sheriff Bianco like at 13%, and then a whole mishmash of Dems at like 6 to 10. And the Democrats are freaking out because they don't have enough time to get everyone to withdraw. So Bianco is actually a serious contender. So what he says matters. I'm certainly not a fan of the guy, and I've met him. My good friend Douglas V. Gibbs is interviewing him tomorrow to address this exact issue. But I wanted to get your thoughts in advance of that, and then we can circle back and see how he did on it.
Well, Bianco claimed to be a constitutional sheriff back, I don't know, about 10 years ago. And he and I had a couple of conversations, but he was never active. And for what I would say when people would call me about him, I'd say, well, for a California politician, he's not too bad. But if he was in another area of the country, he would not be accepted. He would not be taken seriously. And then right after he announced that his officers and deputies would not arrest people for not wearing a mask, one of his deputies arrested a lady in a dollar store because she wouldn't wear a mask. And then I called him about it. He wouldn't take my call. And then he had me talk to Sergeant Martinez, who was in charge of the public relations guy, whatever. And I told Sheriff Bianco, you're better than this. You did exactly the opposite of what you said you would do. And he never responded to me. He just went on with his job. And I'm sure that's how he's going to be as governor. I'm not supporting him. If it came between him and somebody like Gavin Newsom, of course I would support him. But I'm actually, at this point, I'm actually endorsing Pastor Che-On. He's a strict constitutionalist. He believes in limited government. He's a good man, and he sued Gavin Newsom to keep his church open, and Che-On won a judgment against Newsom. And I know this man's a fighter, and I hope that he makes the top two.
Yeah, there are some really good grassroots candidates on the Republican ticket. I mean, I'm friends with Leo Zaki, Scott Shields, a few others. I've been involved in their campaigns throughout the years to limited degrees. The problem is California GOP has picked Chad Bianco as their guy, and Fox News, of course, Steve Hilton's got the name recognition. We've got a broken system, and these great grassroots candidates, without the GOP support, don't have a chance. I wanted to share something from our mutual friend Ven Miller. We were texting yesterday about Bianco, and just a couple lines. He says, Chad Bianco has the lowest crime-solving record of any sheriff in California, literally number 58 out of 58 sheriffs.
Oh, my God.
I have not checked that math, but that's what Vem says. He says he also has the most lawsuits filed and lost, over 100 million paid out to his victims. And he says he has more lawsuits pending, 20 plus suits. So obviously Vem is the biased on the subject, but he's done his homework and he is a pretty good citizen journalist. Take what he says with a grain of salt, but you know, and I'm not here to bash Chad Bianco. He just doesn't have my endorsement either.
Yeah, he doesn't need our help. He does it well enough himself.
Very good. Well, Sheriff Mack, unless you have anything else to say, I want to thank you for your time again.
Thanks for having me, Brady. It's always good to be with you, and I look forward to the next time.
Yeah, and that'll happen pretty soon. We're going to have a lot to talk about this next year, and I have the feeling that Minneapolis incident is just a warm-up act for what's coming.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Cheers.